Hey my friends, this is Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage and Times of Grace, and you're listening to the great podcast called The New Scene. Get into it, my friends.
Hello everybody and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host Keith and we are back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week we have Walter Schreifels, who has quite an extensive resume of bands. Mind Over Matter, Errortype 11, Instruction, Gay for Johnny Depp, Primitive Weapons, and his latest band, Beinn, an alternative post-hardcore band out of Brooklyn who just released their debut LP on Mind Over Matter Records. It's called Perpetual Architecture. Definitely check out Beinn if you haven't heard them. Arty has just been involved in so much great music. It was a fascinating conversation, hearing about his beginning in Long Island and developing the scene there, his major label experience with Instruction and all the stories associated with that. And in addition to all of the bands, Arty is one of the founders of Saint Vitus Bar, the legendary Brooklyn venue that sadly closed its doors permanently in 2024. But we also discuss Saint Vitus and what, if anything, is next for the iconic venue. This is a great conversation, and it is coming up shortly. But first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a main channel with full video episodes and a clips channel with clips from select episodes. We have shirts for sale at our store at Deathwish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. And you can follow us on social media at New Scene Pod. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. Botch 061502. That's the live recording of the original last Botch show. It's available now from Iodine Recordings and Hydra Head Records. And the 1999 self-titled LP from Get High is available on streaming now. This LP was originally released in 1999 by Big Wheel Recreation and features members of American Nightmare and Dropkick Murphys. For more information, head to iodinerecordings.com and follow them on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. And a thank you to this month's sponsor, Deathwish Inc. Head to deathwishinc.com and follow them on Instagram at Deathwish Inc. And now we are going to speak to Walter Schreifels. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Walter Schreifels. Arty, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith. It's an honor to be here.
It's great to have you here, Arty. You know, going through your resume of things, there's just so much great stuff. Mind Over Matter, Errortype 11, Instruction, Godfire's Man, Primitive Weapons, Saint Vitus Bar, and now Beinn. And Arty, I'm very excited to talk to you about most of that stuff, maybe all of it, who knows. But Arty, first I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. I worked all day and got home, cooked dinner for my family, and then I'm gonna go fold laundry after I'm done with this. So, yeah, it's
nice.
a little stressful. You know, driving around Manhattan is never easy, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, it's never easy. Do you ever drive in Manhattan like really early? Sometimes I have to rent a car and drive somewhere at 7 a.m. I really like that. That's fun.
Yeah, no, I do. When I do the night shift at my work, I drive at like 1 a.m. or midnight, and it's like great. It's so good. It's like, woo, we're going. Nobody's in our way. Nobody's double parked. Nothing. You know, it's like you're driving these big trucks, and it's like, you know, it's easy. But during the day, it's a shit show. It's like it's literally night and day.
Yeah, during the day, during heavy traffic, nightmare. What do you do for your job?
I fill in, work part-time at SIR. Just like drive gear to places, or I tech for various artists or whatnot. It's hard to get a job like that because everybody wants them. You know, I've been lucky that I have friends on the inside.
And you said you have a family. What, are you married? Do you have kids? What's the deal?
Yeah, I'm married. I have one kid. Yeah.
How old is your child?
My child is 11.
Ah.
Yeah, we're still dealing with Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo. But But I just found out today that the Stranger Things kids all play in bands. I guess the Steve character and the Wolfgang, whatever his name is, Mike character. I heard Steve's band today in the truck, and it was really good. It kind of like Beatley, indie style, maybe like more high end, guided by voices, like a lot of nods to 70s stuff. It was cool. It was all right. And Wolfgang's, is that his name? Wolfhard? I don't even know what the fuck his name is. He's been in like 3 bands, and they're all pretty decent. I was like, oh, this is cool. Maybe I can like finagle that, slip that in under the guise of Stranger Things.
Yeah, my sister sent me one of their bands. Is the kid who plays Finn, or is Finn his real name? I can't remember.
Yeah, Finn. Yeah, that's it. It's Finn Wolfhard. That's his name. It's real.
Yeah,
name.
she sent me that. She's like, he reminds me of you. He reminds me of you. And the music was pretty good, I got to say. He probably has good taste.
It's cool indie rock. Yeah, I was like, who's this kid's parents? He grew up on some pretty cool music.
Where do you live? Did you say you live in Staten Island?
I do now. Yeah, I lived in Park Slope for 24 years, but I made the plunge into the old SI in the suburbs.
Yeah, because I just had Anthony from Garden Variety on the show, and you came up during the discussion, and we were talking about where you live, and I was like, wait, does he live in Jersey? And then Anthony was like, no, I think Staten Island. And I was like, no, you're right, because I just saw you, and I think we were talking about that.
Yeah, Anthony used to live around the corner from where I was for years and years.
In Park Slope, right? He's still there.
Yeah, I think he's still there, yeah. It's not really Park Slope, it's South Slope. But he kind of lives in Windsor Terrace. So there's a lot of like delineation over there in that area.
Yeah, I used to be down there, and there would be like neighborhood cats around. So it's like there's Park Slope and South Slope and Windsor Terrace, and I remember debates about the dividing lines of the neighborhood.
Yeah, they when we first moved in 2000 or so, it was Sunset Park, and it's gradually changed over time, probably from real estate agents, and then it became Greenwood Heights, which is like sort of like associated with the cemetery, because as the cemetery became more popular, it was like, oh, let's name it Greenwood Heights. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's like how there's an East Williamsburg now. What?
Yeah, that's Bushwick, right? I mean,
yeah, oh yeah.
Essentially, they have to need a reason. They need a reason they need to rename so they can gentrify it properly, or change the industrial zoning of it so they can build condos. And then everybody who moves in complains about all the noise that they moved in to actually participate in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I was talking to you about this. There, where I live, I guess it's like southeast-ish Williamsburg by the L. Lorimer stop. There's a lot of condos going up around me. Some directly next door, big condo buildings. There's another giant one where a grocery store used to be right out there. It's getting noisier and noisier, and it's not good. I hope it does not reach a point where I have to leave here.
Well, I mean, I hope so too. But everybody. That's the thing about New York. It's like, everybody's kind of transient and moving around all the time. So, it's rare when you meet people who actually are from New York or stay here for a long period of time. Because, it's eventually like, if you didn't grow up here, you'll come here for a few years, maybe make some money, and then you move upstate or you move back to wherever you're from. I mean, there's a lot of people I know who have done that. And, whatever, it's cool.
Or you find a spouse and then you go back to your hometown. There's a lot of that.
Right, because you need some help with mom and dad and the kid. Yeah.
Right. I've been here for 13 years now, and I don't plan to leave. I really don't want to. So, hey, there you go.
All right, man. I hope everything works out for you.
Did you grow up in Long Island?
I did, yeah.
Did you like it?
That's a great question, Keith. That's probably the best question I've ever had on a podcast. I appreciate where I grew up, but I ran screaming at as early as I could. My parents kind of were like, "Get the fuck out," But I glorify Long Island, when I wasn't, after I left, after a few years, I was like, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad and blah, blah. And then I moved to Staten Island and I was like, you know what? It was that fucking bad. Like it was like just, I mean, Long Island is one of the most segregated, racist, weird fucking places. And like now it's all Trumpers. It's crazy. I mean, I kind of knew that was going to happen because they were all there, but it never made any sense to me, especially where I'm from in the South Shore, because it's like a lot of working class people, and like they just all jumped on the train, man. And like, I mean, I hope they're happy.
Yeah, that seems to be the vibe with more suburban places. I grew up in Levittown, Pennsylvania. It's very white, very segregated, very racist. Probably Trump country. I haven't checked in on the politics in a long time, but probably. So I don't know. I think it's just like if you're cut off from like people who aren't exactly like you, I think you just get in a bubble and get sucked into like the mainstream news mindset and point your finger like, oh, look at all the big bad stuff happening in the city because the TV told me that it is,
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about Long Island. It's like you grow up 30 minutes from the cultural epicenter of the world and you never go. You know what I mean? It's like just nobody ever go. I'm not going. Where am I going to park? There's no parking. It's dirty. I'm not going. So it's all that bullshit. And it's I don't know. I appreciate it. The schools were good. My family. I love my family. But it's not a place I necessarily wanted to bring my child up in. Like I wanted my child to see a little bit more, be a little bit more worldly. And now, of course, I'm in Staten Island, so that's at least we're in the five boroughs, though. We're in the five boroughs, so I'm in New York City. We can see it. We can see New York City, so it's close enough. But also Manhattan kind of lost its like luster as well for me, and it could just be age. But I've lived in 4 out of the 5 boroughs, so this is my 4th one. The only one I haven't lived in is the Bronx.
Yeah, I think a lot of the magic is disappearing for New York City because, especially in Manhattan, because everything just gets rebuilt, and it's all very corporate and sterile. And
Yeah,
I don't know, it's like when I'm down there, sometimes in the Lower East Side or the Village, or if I'm in like Bushwick, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes you catch the skyline, or there's a moment and you're like, yeah, this is cool. I still live here, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean that skyline is definitely something that is like very romanticized. I remember as a kid going over the Kosciuszko Bridge and seeing that. It's like, wow, like I really like had a yearning to want to be there. And I definitely think it's become a playground for the rich. It has been for a long time, but now that I'm an adult and dealing in real estate and stuff like that, you really, really get a vibe of how they're, like, you look, kid, it's nice that you want all this, but this isn't for you because you grew up in North Belmore and you're just like a shitty working class kid from the South Shore, so fuck off. It's like, it's a little bit like that. It feels like that a little bit. It's like, we'll let you in for a little while, but it's okay. But it's that might be, again, me just like being in a bad mood in general right now for various reasons. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. New York is New York. I think it's great when you're young and you're single and you're hanging and you have no responsibility. But when you got to pay real bills, New York sucks.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. How about your relationship with independent music as a whole? Where did you find it? How did you find it? What kind of things grabbed you?
Well, it depends on what era. I mean, if you mean like,
I'm talking like early days.
yeah. So I grew up with I had 2 older sisters who were 8 and 9 years older than me. So I would rob their record collections, which were mostly like AC/DC, Judas Priest, Pink Floyd, Yes, shit like that. And there was a lot of prog rock in there and a lot of heavy rock. And that was a huge, huge influence on me, especially Yes, especially Black Sabbath. I'd say Yes and Black Sabbath are my 2 favorite bands. And they actually toured together at one point in 1971. And it's, and that kind of developed over time. So I would steal the records. I still have a lot of those records. They're over there. And eventually I had a moment where I found this Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath record. I was in 8th grade, and it was at a church fair, and it was for $1. And it was obvious that like some Catholic mother had found it and been like, we're getting rid of this. And they like put it in the to get out of here bin. And so I bought it with my friend, and it like literally changed me overnight, changed my life. It was like just incredible. Is everything about it was incredible. You know, it's like I took the oath to Satan. I was like, Satan! It was fucking sick. And from that point on, I was about 12 at that time. And from that point on, it just was a quest for heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. Like what could get heavier? What could get heavier? And it really like that eventually, you know, all of that heaviness and going to shows. I went to this place called Sundance out east on Long Island in the 80s when like thrash was like really big. So all the thrash bands would come through and the hardcore bands would open up for them. So it was like we'd see Nuclear Assault, but then you'd see like whatever variation of the Cro-Mags at the time, or Leeway or Agnostic Front, or, you know, Sick of It All. And they would all open for those bigger thrash bands. And so that kind of like piqued my interest in hardcore. And towards the end of my senior year is when I really kind of got into the hardcore scene, and I started Mind Over Matter with some friends of mine and some people we met at shows and stuff. And it was like there wasn't much of a scene on Long Island, and that had to do with the fact that we were so close to New York City. So, you know, it was like, you know, there wasn't a lot of people doing shows on Long Island because you'd go to CB's. That was the place to go. And I went a couple times, didn't really like it that much. It was a little overly violent for me. I'm not big on a lot of that stuff. I kind of go there for the music and not for the drama, and to like whatever. I mean, people can do whatever the fuck they want. I'll stay out of their way, but it's just not my thing. So eventually we, you know, Mind Over Matter was going, and we discovered this place, ABC No Rio, which was on the Lower East Side. And it was like a bit more, it was a straight up like kind of crusty peace punk place, but they also did like real hardcore shows, and they had bands from all over the world. And it was very DIY, extremely DIY. So that was sort of, it wasn't an antithesis to CB's. But CB's was kind of wrapping up at that time. You know, it was like the matinees were getting canceled, and, you know, like a lot of the bands had kind of moved on in sound or broken up. You know, it was like around the time when Gorilla Biscuits was done and Youth of Today was done, and, you know, Agnostic Front was more crossover, and Sick of It All kind of stayed the same. But yeah, so that was kind of the progression. But at the whole time we were developing a scene on Long Island. And, you know, that became kind of a big thing because, you know, it was very much like a, if you build it, they will come type scenario. But it was also became a thing where bands stopped going to the city because there was nobody going to shows. So they would come out to Long Island to play our little shows where there was just tons of kids. It's sort of what's going on now. You know, like things go in cycles. And like, you know, there's a huge influx into Brooklyn. There's a lot of kids in Brooklyn who go to shows, you know, like they're barely 21, 22. And then it comes back around where the suburbs are now like the place that everybody goes to, and bands start popping up in the suburbs. And really, like, you know, because hardcore and independent music is very much a youth culture, I've always felt like the best stuff is made in your parents' basement or garage. Because it's like you're fresh, you're new, you don't have all those songwriting rules in your head, you don't have a lot of clutter, and it's just like it's pure emotion. And you know, like, and you get the opportunity to rehearse whenever you want. And, you know, it's like you're not paying for a practice space, which is total pain in the ass, and it's like really expensive now. And, you know, it's like, and nobody's got girlfriends, nobody's got or boyfriends, if, you know, like whatever. And so it's like you're just all into the band, and this is where the good stuff happens, you know. I was recently in a suburban basement last week rehearsing for an Errortype show that we have coming up, and it's the first time I had rehearsed in a suburban basement in 25 years, 30 years maybe, and it was like, wow. I got really nostalgic, man. It was like, it was cool. It was very cool.
Yeah, I miss that. Like band practice in our guitar player's downstairs furnished basement, you know, and just like You have all the time you want. And you're not in a rush. Not everyone's not in a rush to get somewhere else. Yeah, it's a good point. That's like that's the time.
And back then, no one was looking at their phones. Now it's like I got my phone like in front of me on my microphone stand, just in case, you know, like there's an emergency. And it's like I think about that, I'm just like, it's so fucking lame, dude. Like you got to be in the moment, you know. It's just harder. There's so much more noise now, and as you get older, it comes from every angle, and it's really rare when you meet people who are a little bit older and have really kind of kept that all away, and you know, just keep their lives really simple. But it's really hard in New York City to do that.
It is. That's my dream, is to simplify and just not, somehow create more time, more space, not just get bogged down with stuff constantly. It'll probably never happen, but I can dream.
I'll be right there with you, Keith. It's beautiful. Yeah. But yeah, so like, yeah, Long Island was like, whatever. I mean, that, you know, that's kind of, we're at like 1995 now, but that was kind of where it all started. We got signed, Mind Over Matter got signed to Wreckage Records in the early 90s, which was basically a German-based label, but they came to New York and they signed a bunch of bands in New York, and they were very instrumental in sort of moving like with the hardcore scene in the 90s, where a lot of people had it was kind of almost like hardcore and metal was like a dirty word in the 90s.
Yep.
But like, and Mind Over Matter as a band, I mean, we literally played to nobody. It was like the same 20 kids for 2 years. And then we got signed, and our record came out literally like 2 weeks after Nirvana hit. And we had a record release show, and it was 400 people there. And we were like, what the fuck? Yeah. I mean, it changed everything overnight. Overnight. It was just like all the Guidos and Guidettes at your high school, they were all at like your fucking shows now. They were going to Lollapalooza. They're like super into it. They're like, yeah, I love Soundgarden. I was like, cool. I saw Soundgarden in 1989. They were awesome. You know, it's like nothing changed for us, but like, except for the fact that we were playing to a lot more people and a lot more opportunity had arisen.
What were some of the influences for Mind Over Matter? Because when I first heard it, I was pleasantly surprised. Whenever I listen to a band from like the late 80s, early 90s, I'm always afraid it's going to be Youth Crew sounding, which I don't really like. But Mind Over Matter was like, sounded really ahead of its time, like noisy, discordant type of hardcore that I really like. What was some of your influence and the band's influence?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank you for that, because you got it, because that's exactly what it was. I mean, our first demo was pretty standard hardcore. Our first 7-inch was really eclectic, but the influence basically so Eddie Reyes from Take 'Em Back Sunday was in the band. We started Mind Over Matter together, and eventually he left just before the second 7-inch came out. And at that point I had kind of like taken over most of the songwriting, like as far as musically, not lyrically. And our rhythm section was really, really talented. And I'm incredibly lucky for that, because those guys were, you know, without me understanding arrangement at that time, they were really doing this incredible arrangement that I would kind of write around. And it was taking my sort of, I really wanted to be in Voivod. That was like, that was the biggest influence of Mind Over Matter, was Voivod. And the way it came out was what you hear, that sort of noise rock thing, because I'm not as good a guitar player as Piggy. So, you know, it was a lot of like flatted fifth, discordant, really hectic rhythms and insane bass lines. Like just fucking Scott, the bass player, is just like incredible. But we came from prog rock and shit like that. So it was like, and then you kind of mix like Born Against or some of the more noisy hardcore that was coming out in the early 90s. Like I specifically do not like Youth Crew or any of that stuff that came out of New York in the late 80s. It's just not my thing. It's not bad. It's just not my thing.
It's just not my sound too. Yep.
Yeah, I just wasn't interested in it. You know, like it didn't do anything for me on an emotional level. I wasn't straight edge. I've never been straight edge. So it just didn't speak to me. So I was kind of going in a different direction. And what winds up happening with all that is that you're not hardcore anymore. You know what I mean? Like there's no such thing as progressive hardcore or modern, hardcore is hardcore, and it's never going to change. And once you go past that, like I'll cite bands like Beinn or Quicksand, of course, but Quicksand was a little bit further away. Beinn was closer to hardcore, and like really to me was sort of besides Fugazi, was like an epitome of post-hardcore. Hardcore dudes trying to stretch it and do something really, really cool. It's not hardcore anymore at that point. So, like you start throwing fucking thirds and like, weird jazzy chords in there. It's not hardcore anymore. So just get over it. Go, if you want hardcore, you want a mosh, you want gratuitous mosh parts and beat the shit out of your friends, like a fucking untreated mental illness. Like that's cool. Go for it. But, it's not my thing. And so that's where Mind Over Matter kind of went. And then we really got into Jane's Addiction. That was kind of like the alternative rock thing that got us very early on. And it took us a while before we could incorporate those influences in because we weren't good enough players. But eventually we did. And we put out a record called Auto Manipulation that came out in 1995. That was like really what we wanted. It was like we had finally found the sound that we wanted. And then I abruptly quit right after that record came out to join a band with Walter Schreifels from Quicksand for 2 years. And he broke up Quicksand. I broke up Mind Over Matter. We joined forces.
Which band was that?
It was called World's Fastest Car, and no record ever came out.
Oh, you were in that band.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had those demos. I love that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, well, I mean, you can hear good versions of it on the Rival Schools records or some of Walter's later solo stuff. But there's a tremendous amount of songs that really, he was incredibly prolific. There's hundreds of songs that are just gone. I don't know where the fuck they went. I don't know if Walter's got them on DAT tapes in his room or something. But yeah, so that was the next thing. That's where Mind Over Matter ended. And, I kind of wish, in retrospect, we had continued because I think we could have done some really amazing things musically. But, everybody went on to do cool things. So, no one lost a beat, missed a beat, should I say.
Did that cause any problems or did you regret it, like abruptly quitting to join World's Fastest Car and then Mind Over Matter is done?
No. Musically, I did. And again, years later, because I just think about like what we could have done, because we were really, really, really progressing and gelling as a band. But no, I couldn't be like that. I mean, the singer of my favorite band in the world called me to be in his band.
Yeah.
It was like, and he already had a deal with Island Def Jam and all that stuff. So, I was 21 years old. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, of course. And I can't regret the journey that I've had musically. I learned a lot in those 2 years that I was in World's Fastest Car. It was like, like how to be in a band, how not to be in a band. I played with so many people. I was in a lot of different studios. So it was like, it all kind of like, it fed basically into Errortype 11. And also like I did a bunch of production work around that time as well, because I was in studios so much that I kind of like learned so much. I was able to bring in bands like Silent Majority, who didn't have a lot of experience in the studio, and sort of be like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. I want to get the best I can get out of you guys. And, they wound up teaching me shit because they were just so good. But, I got the opportunity to produce Life of a Spectator, which is the greatest Long Island hardcore record of all time, hands down. Nothing comes close. And I also produced Sons of Abraham, which was Glassjaw. And that I didn't do a lot of production work because like producing Justin Beck is impossible. The guy's fucking ridiculous. He's like fucking, I was like, I can't, you're too good. You're too fucking good.
Yeah, I was watching him a lot when I saw Glassjaw when they played with Poison the Well back in February. He's yeah, they're a force for sure.
Oh yeah, he's incredible. He plays every instrument that good. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. So Errortype 11 gets started. What's different? I mean, had your taste changed? Was there different sounds informing it? Was there stuff you wanted to do differently?
Yeah. So, I mean, coming out of World's Fastest Car, obviously playing with Walter, I was incredibly influenced by all of that. And, I'm a bit more on the traditional rock side than Walter is. So there's a bit more of that in Errotype. And then Walter actually signed us to his label at that time. So I quit World's Fastest Car, started Errotype, and Walter started Some Records with Matt Pincus and Sammy Siegler. And he almost immediately signed Errotype 11. So, I mean, that was like really good, really quick, really easy transition. And we wrote a record really quickly. We gelled very well. And yeah, I mean, I can't say that like it's just, I never thought about it. I was just writing, like there was no specific purpose. I think a little bit in our live show where I played a character that was just like a total dick. Like I was just a dick on stage, I just like our New York shows were amazing because people understand sarcasm in New York. But, and I would go back and forth, like people would yell shit at me. It was super fun. But like outside of New York, not so much. In Europe, forget it. It was like, but then eventually we went to England and I was like, wait, they get it. So, so it kind of came back around, but, we broke up shortly after that European tour, that English tour. But, yeah, I mean, Errotype was, 4 friends just kicking ass, and we got a lot of attention at that time. And, it was the whole feeding frenzy of Long Island bands was happening. And of course we moved from Long Island, so we missed all that. But yeah, it was a weird time in the music industry. And I felt very much with Errotype, it was a weird conundrum for me because like people would say like, you should be on the radio. Like you got this radio rock voice. And I was like, yeah, but I'm in an indie band and indie people don't like radio rock voices. It's like, so we were too rock for indie and too indie for rock. But we had a good following, like a lot of people liked it. And we were sort of in the emo scene, but I was definitely vocal about how little I liked a majority of that. But, and that's a regret I have.
I can hear echoes of like Texas is the reason or Jawbox or not so much Promise Ring or the lighter stuff. I can hear all that good emo / post-hardcore stuff in there.
Yeah, I would definitely use the term post-hardcore more than emo. Like especially lyrically, like we had nothing to do lyrically with any of that sort of emo stuff, but I mean, we were just way more rock than any of the bands that we would play with. And, you play a fucking basement in South Dakota, with the Iceburn Collective or fucking the Weaker Thans or something. And like, I always felt like an alien, I always felt out of place. And I would just drink myself to fucking death before we went on. I would literally drink a 12-pack of beer before I walked on stage. And then I was just a fucking asshole. So then you had to deal with asshole me, but it was fun. I thought it was fun. And the people who got it, they understood that that's not really me. That's not who I am. It was just like, I want, when we roll into a town and play in front of 20 people, I wanted those 20 people to remember us and not just be another band that rolled through. Unfortunately, it was an incredibly misguided way of doing it. So
yeah, because maybe they just remember you as an asshole. But you didn't mean it.
Exactly. To this day, they still do. I'll see shit on social media where people will be like, oh yeah, that band was great, but that singer was such an asshole. I can't fucking deal with it. And it's just like, and I'll like go on and be like, I'm sorry you didn't get it. I'm sorry.
Do you ever have like a metaphysical, like, wait, was it an act? Was I an asshole? Was I just drinking? Like, do you ever think that deeply about it?
Of course. I mean, like I can look back and say like, yeah, if I wasn't drinking, I probably would not have been like that. It's like I was drinking, I was jealous and shitty about like other people who were, like it takes a long time before you realize that like people just get breaks because of timing and just the world, like just rotate, like, the stars align in their path for that moment. And, it's like, there's a lot of everybody, I feel like, music, there's a lot of bands that are of the exact same kind of talent. It's just that doors open for certain people I mean, there's the Nepo baby reason, there's the rich kid reason. And then there's just the good luck and timing and talent, you get like, and some of the Nepo babies and rich kids have good timing and talent too. So, it's there's no solid way of making it. And nowadays there's definitely no solid way. I mean, it's like just completely fucking random.
Yep. Yeah, it's as I always say, it's not time until it's time. And sometimes it's never time.
That's very philosophical there, Keith. I like that.
You just have to keep doing your thing. I get it, though. I would always be drunk and high, and I was attention starved. So I would be trying to be funny and failing or being an asshole, but maybe people don't realize I'm kidding, or just like going too crazy and making too big a spectacle. I mean, I was doing that crap for a long time. I didn't start playing sober until, I don't know, it wasn't that long ago. So, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think our New York humor also didn't really, like, I grew up with Howard Stern. He was like a fucking surrogate father to me on the radio.
Same.
It's like, just the sort of humor that, like you were saying, like, it's like people don't realize that I'm kidding. It's the same thing. And it's weird because, like, in New York, people definitely got it. They understood that, and maybe because they knew me too a little bit. Even if they didn't know me, they'd be like, yeah, this guy can't be fucking serious, But outside of New York, forget it. Like, it was just like, everybody's so like they don't realize that here. I don't know if this happens in other places, but we take the piss out of each other constantly. It's this constant ribbing. And when you're in a van with a bunch of guys and like for fucking months and months and months, we are literally so mean to each other constantly. And like, it doesn't mean anything. So like, we're doing that to each other. And then you go and you do it to somebody else who isn't in the van all the time. And they're just like, what's wrong with this fucking guy?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I will say I made a lot of friends for life during that time. The people that got it and that were friends with us really, really were good friends and loyal and followed me through all my shit. And, it was like, again, it was another step in learning the music industry, songwriting. Like I'm definitely like big on studying songwriting and how, what hooks work and what, just how things like go. I'm a music nerd. So that's what, that's constantly what I want to do. And Errortype led into my major label record, which was like, major label deal, which was a big fucking deal in my life. I was 30 years old by the time that happened. I was kind of aged out.
Yeah, I'm very curious about this. Now, while researching, I remembered I had Joe Grillo on the show. I remember him telling a story about being in Instruction, which is the band we're talking about. And he mentioned being on a tour with Korn and like not having that good of time, which we'll get to that. But I'm curious, how does Instruction come together? How does the Geffen Records deal come together for the LP God Doesn't Care? I mean, yeah, you're 30 years old, right? Maybe you thought you were done with music. Is that what you were thinking? Tell us how all that comes together.
Yeah, I mean, so I was 29 when not that it makes a difference, but Phil, our guitar player in Errortype, quit. And, we had been kind of meandering for a year. We had gone to England in December of 2021, and it was like incredible, fucking insane tour. We were like, holy shit, totally re-energized. We signed an absolutely awful publishing deal with EMI in January of that for the next year. And then 6 months later, Phil quit, and I was like, I remember him walking out of the room, and this is my story. I'm sure if you interviewed Adam Marino, who is the guitar player in Seisha, so I'm sure you'll have him on at some point. But he was the bass player in Errotype. And when Phil walked out of the room, and I was just like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to change our name. We're going to write a bunch of new songs. We're going to go back to England because we already had management offers there. And we're going to have a record deal in 6 months. And I was right about every single thing. It was like the words came out of my mouth and I just manifested the situation. And it's like, that's happened to me a couple of times in my life. Unfortunately, that mojo has disappeared. But but no, it's timing and whatnot, the stars aligning. So I did just that. I wrote a bunch of new songs. We went in, recorded them. We brought in Tom Capone from Quicksand and Handsome to replace Phil, basically. And so it was Errortype, but with a different name and a different lead guitar player. And, and then we just went from there. We went to England. I put everything on my credit card for one show. We wound up getting a booking agent at that show, and we went back a month later and toured with this band Hells for Heroes. And then we went back a month later and toured with this band Funeral for a Friend. And then we went back later and we did Download Festival on the main stage at Donington within 6 months of being a band, which was fucking ridiculous. And then we played the second stage the same day because the band canceled, and then Metallica went on after us as a secret. I mean, it was insanity. It was just fucking like everything we did was this way. It's just after years and years and years of going like this, it was just like, boom, just shot up. But it was all in England. But here in America, we had a entertainment lawyer and a couple other people who were kind of shopping us and using the popularity in England to get interest of labels here in America. And there wound up being a bidding war, and we got signed. We went with Geffen, who offered us way less money than some of the other labels that offered us money. But we wanted a career, and it's like, well, you go with Geffen, it's Interscope and Universal, and, they were going to break us, and the president of the company was signing us and all this other shit. And it just, then we played Reading and Leeds Festival, which was fucking ridiculous. Again, it was like we were one of the most hyped bands on the whole thing, which was like, for me as an Anglophile, lifelong, I was just like, I can't believe that this is happening to me. It was completely outrageous. And luckily we filmed all of it, which was super fun. But yeah, it was, there were a few rule changes from Errotype. I wasn't allowed to drink anymore before we went on stage. That was a big one. And I was very thankful that somebody put their foot down and was like, you guys all need to not drink before you go on. You need to treat this professionally. And we did. And we were that good. It was great. And then, we moved out to Los Angeles. We did a record with Bob Ezrin, who produced Pink Floyd The Wall and all the Alice Cooper records and Jane's Addiction and shit like that. It was all of that shit was just like incredible experiences. I started writing them all down and realized like how cool all this shit was. It was like really, really extraordinary shit that like after years of playing, you're like, you realize that you're in the 1% of the 1% of people who play music. Like people do not get those opportunities, but it took me till 29, 30 to get there. So it was very merit based. It's not like, overnight we just like somebody heard our record and we were like doing this, it was merit based. We had worked up to that point, and, our songwriting was on point with everything. It unfortunately was not on point with all the new metal bands that we were touring with, excuse me. We were still a post-hardcore band.
Yeah, I can really hear the blueprint of Quicksand in a lot of the things you do, and especially Instruction, because Tom Capone. And would you say Quicksand is a favorite or your favorite band? Because they're definitely one of mine. They've definitely been hugely influential in tons of things I've written, and I can hear them in a lot of things you've written. Are they a favorite band of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I don't write very groovy stuff. Like Walter's got that groove thing. And, I did play with the guy for 2 years. So, I have a little bit of an excuse for that. I called that time Wally College because it was like, I really was studying how to refine my songwriting and really do it. And also my singing. My voice sounds very different from Walter's. So, it was like, that was kind of a big difference between, the Quicksand influence and just being a copycat. But that's never what I wanted to do, but that influence is always going to be there. I mean, Quicksand was the most influential band in New York. They changed everything when they came out. And, it's funny because it is still very much a New York thing. Like they don't draw as well outside of New York as they do in like the Northeast. So like New York, Boston, Baltimore. I did a tour with them and Glassjaw a couple of years ago, and it was like yeah, this is Quicksand's area, you know. That I mean, and they've put out some great records since, so you know, like they've increased their popularity. But yeah, I mean, like yeah, of course, Quicksand is the band. They are the band.
How was it playing shows with Linkin Park, Korn, other new metal bands? I mean, that's wild.
You know, I don't want to sound ungrateful. Like I feel like when I talk about it, I come off as being ungrateful because I again felt like a fish out of water through the whole thing. Because we weren't tuned down to like Z and you know like chugga chugga cha chugga chugga cha. You know, everything isn't like some fucking ridiculous mosh part. But I mean, it was cool. I'll say like the Linkin Park guys were really nice. The Korn guys minus Fieldy were really nice. You know, like I Papa Roach. We toured with Papa Roach. Like I mean, we toured with Puddle of Mud, Top Papa Roach, 3 Days Grace, Linkin Park, Korn, Chevelle, Breaking Benjamin, Skindred. I mean, the list is endless. I like everybody, and that's only in 1 year. That was all of our American tours. But it was hard. It's hard going on first in those situations. Like we're playing hockey arenas, especially coming back from England where we were kind of hyped and really popular. And, you know, we were like, oh, it's going to be like in England. And no, it's not, because the fans are completely different. I mean, the Korn fans are fucking weird. Like you're in the Midwest, you're in the Bible Belt. They dress like Marilyn Manson, but they get pissed off when you talk shit about Jesus on stage. I mean, I'm just like, I don't get it. Like I was just completely lost, man. And you know, and my whole thing was like, obviously the record was called God Doesn't Care If We Blow Up the Fucking World. And, you know, it was like and Bob Ezrin fucking pushed me. He was like, no, you got to say more of that. Be more extreme about like your anti-religion views and your anti, you know, like, you know, your socialist ideals and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, but you know, it doesn't go over well in America. They don't care. Like nobody wants to fucking hear it. And I don't know how Rage Against the Machine broke through. I think it was just like nobody knew what the fuck they were talking about. So that's why they fucking liked it.
Yeah, especially back then. But I think with Rage, they did it in a way that could be interpreted as like, I don't know, like Republicans could think it was about Democrats. Democrats could think it was about Republicans. I don't think the masses were thinking about socialism or, you know, any of the bigger ideas that are more mainstream now, you know?
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, and my version of all that was I had toured a lot in Europe in the early 90s. So I got to see democratic socialism, you know, like a lot of people don't get to see. And I was in East Germany and Eastern Europe after the wall fell, like shortly after it. And, you know, like you kind of saw the way things worked, and it was like so different from America. And like, I just feel like people, the majority of America, like they don't travel to Europe and they don't see it. And, you know, I don't think they want to, you know, it's like, I get it. It's fine. Everybody's got different shit to them. You don't have to go travel. You don't have to see any of these things, but to understand what I was talking about, you kind of had to. So, you know, and it was hard because also we got a soft release from the label, which means you're basically like, they're like, well, we're only going to print this many. And then we're going to, you know, and I knew when I saw the record in Amoeba 2 weeks before it came out for $2, I was like, okay, yeah, that's it. We're done. So, like, you know, like, I mean, I was pretty realistic to it. I mean, what happened basically was, DreamWorks was absorbed by Universal. So we went from being like one of like 5 or 6 rock bands to one of 30 rock bands. So it was like, you know, like they brought on Sparta, they brought on Rise Against, you know, like they brought on, especially Rise Against, which was a great story. I was brought into a room with Rise Against A&R person, and my A&R person was actually the head of marketing. And she was like, okay, so you got to pitch yourself because it's you guys versus Rise Against. Like where the marketing money is going to go is determined. And I'm like, wait, Rise Against is a band that goes on Warped Tour and shit. They were on like, I think they were on Hopeless. and it's like, I they're going to sell 50 to 75,000 copies out of the box. You know what I mean? Like, and this A&R person's going to keep their job for another 6 months. Like, we're not going to sell shit, and it's going to cost a fuck ton to fucking break us, and it's like, and she was just like, well, you guys are better though. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I sat in this fucking meeting and I was like, look, like, wait, you're like trying to fucking sell us to this fucking person who was just like, get the fuck out of here. Like, we're going to push Rise Against and nobody's going to push you. Go back to New York and get the fuck out of here. It's just like, that's just the way it was. That's reality. I was upset about it at the time, but, and nothing against Rise Against, never met them.
Never met them. Met their AR person though.
Yes, I sure did. Well, I'm sure she's not anymore. She probably lost her job within months. But who knows?
That's such an interesting place to be. And to like, did you have that understanding at the time? Like, well, they're not going to push us. Like, this isn't going to happen.
I knew about it about halfway through the record that there was rumblings of a soft release. And so Bob Ezrin at that point came to me and he was like, listen, like he was having problems with the label too. And Bob is, at the time he was 55. It's a little bit older than me now, but like he was basically a dinosaur in the industry. And the label, the only way they would let me do a record with Bob Ezrin, it was if Andy Wallace mixed it, which cost $75,000, by the way. And Bob was double that. So Bob came to me and he was just like, you got any songs that like that maybe might not make the record or like stuff like that? So we would sit every morning with acoustic guitars and play. And Bob's an incredible song. I mean, he wrote Beth by Kiss. I mean, not that I'm the biggest Kiss fan, but like, come on. And he wrote a bunch of stuff on the Wall and like, he's like wrote all this shit with Alice Cooper. And so I would sit with him every morning and I had this one song. I was like, he's like, yeah, it kind of got like a Led Zeppelin vibe to it, or like, Jane's Addiction via Led Zeppelin. And I was like, yeah, cool. I was like, well, he's like, you want to spend some money? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, do we have the budget? He's like, fuck yeah, that's the only thing you got, dude. I was like, all right. He's like, because at that point you're like, we're never going to recoup. We're never, it's like we're probably going to get dropped. So I may as well do everything I've ever dreamed of in the studio. And, we're in a $1,500 a day studio in Los Angeles. And we're like Van Halen did all their records. And I was just like, okay, so let's do the song. But I want a sitar player. I want a tambour player. I want, I want an orchestra. I want, so he immediately like got in touch with Michael Kamen, who he was friends with. And he's like, all right, Michael's going to do the string arrangement for this. And then Michael Kamen died 2 weeks later. So his protege did the string arrangement, but that was like, whoa, what the fuck? But yeah, so it was fun. The song's called Feed the Culture. The song is called Feed the Culture that I wound up doing. And it's, it was cool. Like they brought in Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction and we did a drum circle and we did a full raga for 30 minutes, which got edited down. So musically, as a musician, it was like really cool. Those experiences were just like, I can't, you can't pay enough to have those experiences. It's like, just incredible. You're
yeah,
like,
if you can do it, you just have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And we wound up spending a shit ton of money on the record. But
is that song on God Doesn't Care?
It is. Yeah.
I got to go back and listen to that. Yeah.
It's very cool. But when the record got reviewed, it was like, what the fuck is this? This doesn't fit in. And in my head, I was like, well, I don't write, like I love bands like Led Zeppelin or early Smashing Pumpkins or even later Smashing Pumpkins, where they wrote all different styles, and on one record. Like, why do you have to be so fucking linear? I want to hear an acoustic song. I want to hear a fucking heavy song. I want to hear a blues song. So that was kind of like where I come from in every record I do. And, like people were like, oh, like reviews. The worst review I ever got in my life, ever, hands down, was in Alternative Press for that record. And like, I don't want to hound on the bad stuff, but this was like the most brutal fucking review. And I was like, it was so bad that the editor, Jason Pettigrew, called me personally to apologize. He was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, like I had known him before. He's like, we don't edit reviews. So like whatever came in just gets printed. And I was like, oh man, I was like, it's pretty rough. So he shows up. We were on tour with Helmet, and he shows up at the Grog Shop in Cleveland with the Brand X box set for me. He's like, I got a present for you. I'm so sorry. And it's like, he brings me Phil Collins's Jazz Fusion fucking side project. He's like, I know you love Brand X. I know you love Phil Collins. I was like, I do love Phil Collins. This is fucking awesome. But yeah, it was like, that was hard for me to take because alternative press was definitely like related to my scene, but we were so far into the new metal thing at that point, on a marketing level, that
yeah, 2002 to 2006. That's like the deep trenches of new metal. That's not
Yes.
even like the beginning where it's like we don't really know what it is yet.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, I mean, even the Deftones were thrown into that world. I know they're not anymore. But yeah, it was tough. But I mean, again, like I have so many fucking stories about fucked up shit that happened on those tours. I mean, that whole new metal scene was this weird mix of like hip hop and like 80s glam metal, like just the lifestyle, shall we say? Which was like just foreign to me. Like that was just so far removed from my like punk rock, hardcore, post-hardcore New York world. Like I couldn't relate at all. I was like, put me back on tour with Hot Water Music, please. That's all I want right now. I need some fucking something real here. But yeah, I mean, had we done the tours like that, I think we would have been more successful. But you know, at the end, we were just like, I couldn't do it anymore. You know, Joe had joined the band at that point, and we wanted to play a different style of music. So, you know, it was just like, let's go, let's break it up and go.
Yeah. So Saint Vitus Bar, we know Saint Vitus Bar. We love Saint Vitus Bar. What was your role in that? I know there was several different people involved. What was your role in with that organization?
Well, I'm one of the original owners. And I mean, I named the place. That's one thing. It was me and Justin Skirty and George Salidas who found the space and did the build out and basically had the concept behind it. And yeah, it was like, it just kind of, you know, with any business, if you're successful, you kind of have to morph into whatever is going to help you pay the bills. And, you know, we started off doing a few shows, but then we realized that everybody left Greenpoint and we had no regular customers anymore. So we had to do more shows and more shows and more shows and more shows. And, you know, we became pretty much a menace to everybody in New York because we just started getting every show. And it was pretty crazy. But it was also, again, merit-based. It's like I never burned any bridges in the music industry. And I knew a lot of people who were kind of in the upper echelon of the music industry. And so I was able to call in favors from friends who would come and play. And, you know, Dave Castillo did a shit ton to really establish us as a place to play. But, you know, it really revolved around the fact that I had toured so much at that point that I really knew what bands wanted when they walked in, you know, like from soup to nuts, like from the sound guy being nice to you from the get-go to the place sounding good to, you know, at least a decent amount of water and beer downstairs to just a friendly atmosphere. We were very friendly. We always paid everybody. And that shit spread like wildfire. You know, I think people were looking for it. And, you know, from booking agents, managers, like we just started getting a lot of calls, a lot of emails about people wanting to play. And we were able to parlay that because we had people like Frank Wang or Torsten Mayer, who were both guys who filmed almost every show. Like they could weirdly could sense that something was going on. So they would show up. They literally had FOMO, out of control, like never not there. You know, it's all on YouTube. So, and that shit really helped us go beyond our four walls and sort of build the brand. And then, you know, like we had a great logo, you know, we had like a lot of the stuff was just happy accidents, you know? really good moves at certain times that just led us to where we were. And yeah, that was kind of how it happened, man. It was like it's like a life of its own. It still is.
Yeah, it was like the perfect storm of everything. Like, how does that feel? Because Saint Vitus was the spot, not just in New York City, but worldwide. People knew it. Everyone wanted to come in and play. Everyone wanted to play there. I wanted to play there. Did you ever stop to think at that point, like, hey, like, we're doing it. Like, this is awesome.
No, because it was, so as you might know, we had a lot of problems with the building. And we had a particular person who was hell-bent on getting us closed down and basically ruining our lives. That was his main intent.
How long was that going on? Was that
10
like
years.
10 years?
10 years.
Same person.
Same person. Yeah, but it started as noise complaints. We didn't really know about the problems with the building until much later. And then I guess he figured that out. It's a long story. It's really hard to explain and it's boring as shit. But because of all of that, because of like the literal constant struggle with noise and this guy and just, it's a 24/7 job, completely and utterly 24/7. And I don't think I slept for 10 years because I was just waiting for something to happen, waiting to get shut down, waiting, there was so much energy put into just staying open that I couldn't enjoy a single moment of it. Really. I mean, the things I enjoyed is like getting into shows for free that I want to go to, or, Dave would call me and he'd be like, dude, I just got a call from this band. And like, I was like, awesome. We're going to see that band and they're playing our place. That's fucking amazing. It's like doing shit like that was like incredible. And also like my big thing from the very beginning was being able to see people have the best night of their life. Like, I can't express like, that's the dragon that I chase all the time. But when I was either behind the bar or behind the sound booth or like wherever I was, I would just be like you'd see people coming out of the room, just like they're lit up. Like, that was fucking amazing. I can't believe I just saw this band in this little room. And like, it's incredible. And even bands that didn't sell out, like, there was something about playing at that time in that space that just bands just fucking ripped. They were just great, and we made sure that the sound system was absolutely the best it could be. Like, we kind of modeled it after Mercury Lounge, but at the end of the day, it was more of a CB's thing, but like, it had to sound great. That was my number one fucking thing. It's like, it's gotta sound great because like, that's what people leave remembering, it's, and like, are the lights good enough? And like, does it look like a little arena show? Like, that's really what you want to create. And then also like the stuffing a lot of people in a small space, that creates a lot of energy. And, it's like, it's unfortunate that for most places that's illegal, but it's an incredible energy that you get from having that much sweat and heat and, just people going nuts. It's a different experience. You could have the same experience in a room with people spread out and it wouldn't be nearly the same. Not even close.
Yeah, now that you mention that, I remember that. Jamming into the main room where the stage was, or sometimes you'd get caught in that little middle room where the bathrooms are and the ATM is.
That's if you showed up late.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. Like, people would show up and be like, I can't get in the room. They'd be like typing complaints. Like, I can't get in the room. It's like, well, don't show up 5 minutes before the fucking set. How many times you been here? You know that. Like, don't be stupid.
I do miss it though. I miss it. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, I do. I don't miss all the bad stuff. I do miss the glory days. I miss getting the phone call from Dave where it's like, dude, I just booked, this like band that nobody's ever heard of except for me from like the late 80s. There was a weird sweet spot in like 2015, 2016 maybe, where social media wasn't as like walled, it wasn't as advertised based. And Spotify was not as algorithmic, shall we say. So like a lot of these older bands were being discovered by younger metalheads. So they all got back together and they all played Saint Vitus, and it was fucking awesome. Like seeing like Demolition Hammer or Toxic or Blood Feast, like like these fucking bands that I thought would have never gotten back together, but everything old was new again. And it was fucking awesome. It was I miss that shit a lot. But like I do enjoy being able to sleep at night. That's and not having to drink myself to sleep every night. It's pretty much what I was doing. But yeah, man, we're still chasing that dragon, man. We're still trying, and something's gonna happen. I can't say what yet, but
that's what I wanted to ask. Are we thinking new venue or a restaurant at Newark Liberty Airport? What's the deal?
Right? I wish we were that big. If I could get that kind of money for licensing, that'd be sick. No, Vegas is where we're going.
Nice.
New venue. Like we're working on it. It's been almost 2 years now. We've been doing shows off premises, in various venues. But we've been looking for spaces the whole time, and it's been close a couple of times, but we're again, we're still working on it. I don't want to jinx anything.
Fingers crossed. I hope something new happens because I do miss it a lot, and I'm sure tons of other people do too. But yeah, so okay, here's a question. I'm thinking about overly OCD logistics because that's how I am. All right. And I deal with spaces and, relationships and that kind of stuff sometimes. All right, let's say we find a new space. My immediate thought would be, I have to make sure everything is rock solid because I do not want to go through all this shit again. Like, let's say you are looking for a new space. Is that in mind for you?
Yeah. So we were in a meeting with Justin Brannon from Indecision, who's the councilman for Bay Ridge and Coney Island and whatnot. And Keith Powers, who is also a councilman, he ran for borough mayor of Manhattan that he lost. But anyway, like all these politicians got involved with us after we got closed down and trying to help us reopen. And Justin just looked at me and he was like, wherever you do next has got to be unfuckable with. And I was like, yeah. And so, I mean, that's the intention because at this point, like, I don't think as the owners of St. Vitus, we ever realized how many eyes were on us. You know what I mean? Like, we never thought of us as being that well known. I mean, I would go to Europe on tour and people would want to talk about Vitus more than they wanted to talk about my band, which kind of bummed me out, but it was also pretty cool. And, and it was like, so I got the gist of it to a point, but when we got closed down and there were news trucks parked outside for a week, and like we were I remember sitting with my daughter watching New York One, like the day after or 2 days after, and like they're calling me, they're literally calling me on the phone because they want an interview, and we didn't do any interviews. We didn't want to talk about it at all because I was embarrassed personally. I mean, like we all were, and we were busy moving shows and like dealing with everything. I mean, it was fucking chaos. But like we're watching New York One and like they show St. Vitus and they talk about it. And my daughter turned to me and she's like, Dad, are you famous? And I was like, no, but my place is apparently. And it was so funny. And but I started to realize at that point. And so over the past 2 years, it's been like, whatever we do reopening is probably going to get a lot of attention. And so we better not be, we can't skim the rules, but the reality of it is that things have gotten so you can't skim the rules on anything anymore. Everything is just like it. And that's why companies like Live Nation and AEG own everything, because in order to have enough money to open a place, it's almost impossible, like on a legal level, like you just can't do it. And if you do it, you have to charge so much money that nobody wants to fucking play there. So it's very difficult. People complain about ticket prices and shit like that. And it's like, it's a combination of faults, but like the overhead in New York City is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And, and I feel like that's why a lot of like music and live venues and stuff have gone to the suburbs again, because in order to have a venue that is all ages or 18 and over or 16. I mean, there's so many logistics with insurance and stuff like that. You can't afford it. You can't afford it. I mean, don't even get me started. You like logistics? We could talk about insurance for an hour. Like insurance is the biggest fucking scam. And like they charge, I mean, it's like 20% of gross or something at this point.
Insurance literally exists to take money and try to not pay you when something goes wrong.
Yes. And like, but now the premiums are so high for any music venue or any space where there's a gathering. It's outrageous. And that's why, again, Live Nation, AEG, they're the only people that can afford it because they buy insurance in bulk. And then they have the top tier insurance that doesn't have mosh clauses and doesn't have, all this other shit. And it's like, it's definitely like not a fair game. It's New York is the days of mom and pop are long gone. And that's why everybody should root for Saint Vitus to reopen because we are fucking mom and pop all the way. And, like, I'm not going to sit here and deny that I've talked to Live Nation or that we deal with Live Nation. I don't think there's anything wrong with Live Nation. They just got a lot of money. And so they can book a lot of shows and good for them. I mean, my friend Christian has worked there for 20 years and I love him. Like I have nothing against any of those companies. I live in a world that I don't think should have to fucking overlap with them. Like we live in the underground and anything that does overlap with them is an underplay. And, that's it. I just, New York is the most competitive market in the world. So, and the most expensive real estate in the world. So you combine all those things and, it's not easy, man. And then on top of that, you build a music venue and everybody's on top of each other here. So you're always bothering somebody, always. It's impossible not to. So yeah, if that answers your question, and
it does.
I'm a big fucking nerd about this shit, man. This is like, it's my whole life is dealing with this stuff. And like everybody, all my partners are just like, oh, Arty's talking about insurance again. Oh, cool. That's
Someone's got to deal with it. Someone's got to think about it.
Yeah, I'm the world's most unsexy person. I was like, you guys deal with the sexy shit. I'll leave the sexy to my songwriting. How's that go?
Yeah. Speaking of Beinn, we have Beinn now. We have Perpetual Architecture, the new LP out on Mind Over Matter Records. We are now label mates, which is exciting. When does Beinn get started? How does Beinn get started? Like, what's going on with you? I know you were doing Godfire's Man from 2006 to 2010. Primitive Weapons had activity up to like 2018. So were you just like, hey, it's time for a new band? Like, what was going on?
Yeah, you forgot Gay for Johnny Depp, which I don't know if Joe Grillo discussed, but yeah, that was another band we were in together, which is probably the most popular band I've ever played in.
Really?
To be honest. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Weird. And Joe as well. But anyway, yeah, so Primitive put out 3 albums, which is more albums than I've put out with any band I was ever in. We toured the world. We did, toured the world and elsewhere. Sorry to go Spinal Tap. And we had a great time. We like musically, that was a very rewarding band for me because it was like heavier and like we would often play at Saint Vitus because like, whatever the headlining band needed to borrow gear. So, we'll just play, like whatever, which was very convenient. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that whole experience. And in 2000, I think this was our last show was 2019. I just decided that I wanted to sing again. And, our bass player was moving to Minnesota. Things were kind of splintering a little bit. And I wanted to sing. I was like, if I'm going to write my writing, our last record was a little bit more alt rock, heavy alt rock, but a little bit more alt rock. And I was singing a lot more. And I was just like, you know what, if I'm going to write this stuff, like I kind of want to be the singer. And, Dave was already doing his electronic, project. So he was one foot out the door as it was. And we were just kind of like, I don't know if there's much more we can do musically. So, let's move on. And then it took me a while before, I could get my songs in a room with a drummer and a bass player because like the pandemic hit and I was trying to help 2 businesses survive. And like the pandemic really, really, really paralyzed me on a artistic basis. It's just like I couldn't operate. I was also drinking way too much. And, like I feel like that was stunting my creativity quite a bit. I had gone over the creative hump at that point. It's like, it's good for like this way, this way, this way. And then you hit a hump and then you're just like, yeah, this isn't good anymore. I'm like too hungover to pick up my guitar. That's kind of lame. And like my priorities just changed. But eventually in like 2021, I guess, I started playing with Jeff Gunsterbloom, who's in every band I play in, except for Beinn now. But like, at the time, he was in the Twin, which I also play in. And we were in a band called Unwed with Jason from Hot Water Music. So we were kind of like very familiar with each other. And I played with a couple of different bass players, but I owned a bar up the block from my house. And one of the regulars was this guy, Eric Adams, not the mayor, who was from Michigan, same place as Jeff. He knew Jeff. And I watched him play in a couple other bands, and I was like, this guy's kind of good. And he was a weird combination of Fish and Fugazi. Those were his two favorite bands. And, which are related in a weird way. I'll say, like in an interpretive, jammy way.
Yeah, my friend once called Fugazi a straight edge jam band, and I thought that was really funny. And I was like, "Wow, he's right."
yeah, totally. And so I invited him down to play with us. I sent him some demos, and we literally, we wrote like 3 songs first rehearsal. As soon as he started playing, I was like, "You're the guy." Like, in my head, I was like, "This is done." So after about 2 or 3 rehearsals, I booked studio time to record an album because I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do it quick. I want to capture the exciting energy that we have right now. And we went, I got Mario from Spotlights to produce it. And that was it. It was like literally done in 1 weekend. And it was great. And like, we hadn't played live before we recorded the record, but we started playing live in September of that year. And our live shows were really, really good. It's the first time I've ever done a 3-piece, which I think we've talked about before when we played together. It was like, it was more about scheduling than it was about sound. It's just like, I think I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to deal with somebody else's schedule as much. It's already hard enough. And I think the songs are there and I can kind of cover shit. And all my years of experience playing live, I realized that live music is kind of just loud. You know what I mean? It's like to get the nuances of things live, it's really difficult. You can have dynamics and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just fucking blaring. It's like you're wearing earplugs, I'm wearing earplugs, everybody's wearing earplugs. What's the fucking point of this? But it's like, live music is very visceral. And I often feel like it's hard to absorb things live. It's good, but you don't necessarily go away singing a song. And I felt like people were watching us and going away singing a song, which was fucking great. It's like,
that happened to me with We Are Not Alone. I was like, cool. That's the jam. Yeah.
Repetition.
Yeah. I love that because usually you see a band and you don't remember a riff or a song or, I don't know if it's because the band's not good or if I'm just not paying enough attention or whatever. So when you see a band and you're like, yeah, that song, that's a great thing.
Yeah, and that song in particular was written off of a jam, which was fucking cool. And every time we play it live, we do it differently. So like that shit is like super fun. There's a lot of improvising we do on stage. I basically decided I didn't want to talk in between songs, so I just like either write stuff or just do a cover song or like whatever, it's fun. And like, at first I wasn't sure if it was going to go over well, but the reaction from our first couple of shows was really, really good. And I was like, okay, oh, they like it. All right, cool. That's great. And like, it was very natural and very cool. And, I'm very inspired by the guys I play with. Chris Enriquez Jeff moved to Kansas. So, and he plays in Coalesce and Casket Lottery now. So, we were needing a drummer, and Chris is an obvious choice. He plays in every band, so, he's an obvious choice, but he's also insanely talented. And there were very few people I felt that could replace Jeff. and Chris was one of them, and Jeff endorsed it. So I was like, all right, cool. Let's go. And we've already written, I have an album or more worth of material, and, we've already written a bunch of shit with Chris, and it's like everything we play together sounds great. It's like, like you're in a purple period as a band, it's like, it's just amazing to me. Like Eric will start playing something, I'll start playing something, Chris will start playing something. It's like, everything sounds fucking great. I have hours and hours of jams where I'm like, I don't know how to fucking edit this. Like, I don't know what
when
the
I
fuck
saw
do.
you the most recent show with Sam, it sounded really massive, and that's what I want more than anything with Memory Entry. Is I don't want it to sound weak. I don't want it to sound like small. I'm like, you guys sounded massive. I was like, oh, I hope we sound like that. I hope the live sound is dialed in like that.
Yeah, it is totally. I've seen you play.
Yeah,
it's fucking super fucking massive. Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, I like, and that's the thing. It's like I don't necessarily like. I don't want to take the shoegaze approach and just pummel with volume, but we do a little bit of that, and we do a little bit of prog, and we do a lot of post hardcore, and it's all kind of mixed in through our filter. I'm very, very proud of the record, and I'm excited to get back in the studio. I want to go in right now and record, because I feel like the stuff that we've been writing is just great. And there's some stuff that we wrote with Jeff at the end. It's like a 7.5-minute song that like I fucking love because it's 7.5 minutes. It's like when we released "We Are Not Alone" as a single, everybody was like, I remember I was talking to this guy who used to work at my management company, and he was like, dude, why would you release this as a single? And I was like, because somebody made a video for it. Like seriously, the dude just made a video for it. So I was like, we got the content. I mean, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, worry about a song being 3.5 minutes? Like, people are either going to listen to it or they're not. I'm not going to get through the algorithms. I'm not in the corporate algorithm. I'm not going to get on any playlists. It's just like, we don't have the money to pay for any of that. And, it's like, I want to play. I want to tour at least a little bit and make great music and have fun. It's like, that's all I got left.
yeah, I get hung up on that too, because if a song goes over 3.5 minutes, I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. We're yes now. But we wrote a song that's like 6.5, maybe close to 7 minutes, and I was like, no, you know what? We're going with this because it's such a groove. We got to roll with this. Like, fuck worrying about time, and like I'm just gonna roll with it.
Yeah, no, dude. If you're like that's the thing. If you're saying everything you want to say in the song, it can be 2 minutes or it can be 20 minutes. Like there's no difference. I do obviously. I really appreciate songs that are 3 minutes and say everything, or even 2 minutes. Like there's some Beatles songs. What's the fucking song? It's on Revolver. It's a piano song. Not another. Fuck. I'll remember it. I'll remember later on. But it's 1:59, and it literally like your day breaks, you don't know the time the thing is on, and you don't want to sever. Anyway, whatever. It's that song. So but it's 1:59, and it's incredible. It's like he said everything in 1:59. I'm not fucking Paul McCartney, so I need a little bit more time to say everything I need to say. So.
Yeah. Were you sitting on the Perpetual Architecture for like a couple years? You said you recorded it that early, back in like 2022 or something?
We recorded in 2023, and it was mixed and mastered in 2024. Yeah, I had a label that was all through Universal, or it was through Atlantic and all this shit. It was my old management company was going to put it out, and that went on for like a year, where it was like, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to put it out on this label overseas and blah, blah. And then it just like disappeared. Like they just stopped answering my phone calls. I do talk to them now, and they were just like, whoa, things are doing. I was like, all right, cool. Like, you could have let me know a little bit earlier than that, so I could have been like at least talking to other people. And I did during that time. Like I talked to Spartan, I talked to John at Spartan, and and then eventually talked to Austin, which was all through Brian Louie from the Twin. He was just like, one day he was like, dude, did you send your record to Austin? And I was like, no, because I don't want to step on the Twins' toes. Like I didn't want to like fuck any of that up, because we had a record in the can too. And he was like, I don't care, dude. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And he'd like, send me the record so I can send it to Austin. I was like, okay, cool. So I did. And Austin called me like the next day. He was like, let's do this. I was like, all right, cool, man. So yeah, I mean, and I love Austin. I love everything he does on that, with that label.
It's amazing stuff, right?
Yeah. And he's a really special guy. Like, you know, what
Yeah.
he's able to do, like all the silk screening stuff and like his participation in it. Like, I love the personal touch involved with everything he does. So he really, like, it wasn't hard for him to sell me on it. And I'm just excited. I mean, we're going to get the records this week. So, you know, I get to like take it out, put it on my record player back here, these speakers that I've had since I was like in high school. Like,
Oh, it's going to be so awesome. I'm still so happy with ours, like the hand screen printed. He did a special run of 20 with a different cover for our release show. People still message us all the time and just say the layout's great. And I'm like, I know, it's crazy.
it's a great, and it's such a cool touch, you know, and I think there are fans of his label, you know, beyond what comes out on it. And he writes a personal note in every single record, which is like, that's something that really, really touched me when he told me that, because I was like, I told him like, you know, I travel on tour around the world and I'd see people with Saint Vitus shirts on, and even in New York or anywhere, I'd see somebody with a Saint Vitus shirt on. I literally want to go up and hug them. You know, I know it would get a little uncomfortable and weird, and I'd probably get punched or arrested, but like, that's my first feeling is like, can I just hug you and thank you for participating in all this? Cause like, you have no idea how much work went into that, you know, and it's like, it's fucking awesome. You know, it's a great feeling. So yeah, I love that personal touch that Austin does. I wish I had the time, and I wish I was that nice of a person. I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, I'm kind of standoffish and always in a rush, and I can be irritable sometimes, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better at connecting with people. Like when I actually meet someone I like, I'll actually be like, hey, here's my number, or you know what I mean? Like instead of just running away. But yeah, the personal touch that Austin puts into everything, I aspire to that.
Yeah, it's fucking great, man. And I'm happy to be associated with it, you know?
So let's talk about what we've got coming up. Tell us everything the people need to know, Arty. I know there's an Errortype 11 show coming up. What else is going on?
So Ben is playing at a place called Mama Tried in Sunset Park, which is about the size of a living room. And so it's going to be tight and it's going to be awesome. To definitely come to that. That's basically our record release show. I'm friends with the owners there. During the summer, they have shows outside because they have a great stage outside, and it's a really awesome run place. And I'm really excited to play. And I'm excited to be in that tight room. You know, like I think that's cool. It's like the only room we could possibly pack at this point. So, you know, it'd be cool. And it's like John Lamacchia is playing with us, who's awesome. And we're going to do some twin stuff. Brian Louis coming down. He's opening. So it'll be a good, like, you know, festive holiday jive, and then we'll get on stage and bum everybody out. But at least, you know, it's not really, you know, if you enjoy, you know, the darker side of alt rock, you know, that's us. But yeah, so we got that coming up on December 20th. That's in Sunset Park. And Errortype is playing at the Middle East upstairs with 6 Going on 7, who were our label mates back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and touring mates as well. We toured a lot with them. Josh is a very old friend of mine. So that's exciting. That's be very, very cool. But that's just a one-off show in Boston. Like everybody lives all over the country. So, you know, we're kind of, we have to fly in and figure out the songs again and shit like that. But it's fun. I mean, Errotype is just easy. We're all super old friends. So, you know, like, it's all good. And yeah, like besides that, I got nothing on the books particularly, you know, working hard on the Vitus stuff, and working a regular job as well. And, you know, I think we might be going on tour with Sisters in May, for a little bit, which should be amazing. And they're more friends. Mario, who produced our record, is in that band, and the dude from Molly McGuire, who are fucking awesome band from Kansas City. So that's another thing that's pretty much 100% on the books. So I'm excited to do that. Maybe get some more Spotify plays out of it. I don't know. Get into the algorithm, into the right algorithm, whatever the fuck that is. Uh, yeah, it's funny. Like, as I definitely, I vibe that you feel the same way I do. Like, where it's like I get really angry about all that stuff. Like, I just be like, what the fuck, man? I was like, what does it take for people to just like it was easier for people to listen to our music before streaming. Like in the mid 90s, it was like crazy. We would sell 6 to 10,000 fucking copies of our record. Now it's like I always say that like the thousand, the little thousand with the less than sign is like getting 1,000 bad reviews.
Ugh, I hate it. And then like you see your listeners drop from 100 to 50 or whatever, and then like, oh, I better make a post. Oh, it went up to 60. I hate it, and but I refuse to play the game to a degree. Like I'm not gonna make corny comedy reels or like any of the like stupid marketing stuff because I value like the artistic merit of it. So I need to find ways to get the word out there in a way that aligns with the artistic vision, but it's hard. And look, there's limited time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do that stuff either, and mostly because I don't know how to. But but also it's like I don't know. Like I hate the whole statistics based idea of it because it's like it should be. It's not merit based. A lot of those plays are bought or are a popularity contest or a demographic contest. And it like it doesn't. I'm not going to sit here and complain and say, "Oh, it's not fair. It's not fair," but it's kind of not fair. And it's like there's no even playing field at all, not even close. And now we have AI, which is getting thrown into the mix, which is just like really more noise. Great, but like I hate this idea of like I have a batting average and it's on Spotify. You know what I mean? It's like my batting average sucks, dude. It's fucking really bad.
I know we were talking. We were like we'd actually probably be doing ourselves a favor if we took ourselves off there because then everyone can't see like, hey, look.
I mean, if it wasn't like so convenient and so the standard, I would do it in a heartbeat.
We're too new. I just got to keep it up for now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What are we really? We're taking it off Spotify. We're only kind of hurting ourselves at the end of the day.
At this point, yep.
But but it's also like it would give me so much relief to not look at those numbers, and be like, wow, why is this not working? Why is this working? It's interesting because like you look at stuff and you try and figure out why, like, because I have a lot of songs on Spotify. I probably have almost 200, and it's like I'll look at like a song and be like, why did that one hit? Like Errortype's Better Than the Super Bowl has a lot of plays, and it's like maybe it got on a playlist, or like, Primitive Weapons has one song that has 200,000 plays on it, and it's like it got on a playlist that was popular, and it's like, but then like the algorithm works where it only pushes that song, and it doesn't push anything else, and it's just so fucked up, and I don't want to play those games. I can't fucking be bothered because there's no barrier of entry. There's no merit system. It used to be where you got a band together, you improved your songwriting to the point where you recorded a demo. You did that in like a shitty studio. That demo got you a record deal or somebody who was willing to pay for you to go into a good studio. You record that record in a good studio, you go on tour, and there were gatekeepers. And I would say that the gatekeepers were way more open-minded back then in the alt-rock era of the 90s than they are now. Now it's just like a shitty comment. Fuck this band. You listen to it for 5 seconds. There's no deep listening. And like, I don't write music that is just background shit, so it's really, really fucking hard to swallow. But I also don't want to be the old guy who's complaining, oh, these kids have all the advantages. It's, it just is what it is. I'm going to keep writing music. I'm going to keep playing. And, until my voice is shot or something, like I don't know, or I feel like I have nothing else to say. But it is frustrating because whenever you write a record, you want people to hear it. And like, you literally feel like nobody's hearing it.
I know the feeling all too well, but I'm like you. I'm just going to keep going out there and playing and trying to win people over. I'm not thinking too much about social media, marketing, these kids, young, blah, blah. No, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing the way I think it should be done. And listen, that's it. That's all we can do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's literally nothing else you can do. And, unless you get like super lucky and something just happens, somebody hears it, somebody picks it up, but again, it's like all that shit's so fucking hard, I just, so yeah, it's amazing that like, it's an amazing feeling to continue to be inspired, and I think that was a big thing with Vitus as well, when that was around, just being surrounded by that much talent all the time is incredibly inspiring. Some days it could make you feel like you want to quit because you're like, I could never be that good. But most days it made me feel like, yeah, that's fucking great. Those guys are doing great. I want to do that too. It's like, I want to keep writing and keep improving. And I really feel like with Beinn, my songwriting took another step. It was like, I finally wrote that shoegaze song that I've been wanting to write for years, and like, I finally wrote a proggy song that like is got all these weird 70s elements in it. It's like, it was fun to kind of go places that I just didn't care about what I was doing and just go and do it.
Yes, so make sure everybody checks out Perpetual Architecture by Beinn. I love it. It's a great record, and make sure you go see them live when you have the chance. And Arty, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. This was great. I mean, you've done so much awesome stuff, and it sounds like we have a lot more to look forward to, so thank you.
Thank you, man. And go buy the Twin record too.
Yeah, I actually know Brian. I met him at a mutual friend's show. He's awesome. I got to get that one too.
He's incredible. He's an incredible songwriter. Absolutely fucking amazing. But yeah, that record's fantastic too.